So, which is better, electric or hydrogen? Well, today we're going to find out. So, in the past videos, we've dove into the troubles at Porsche and Stellantis, especially problems with electrification at the Porsche fleet and what Stellantis has to offer on that note. We've also dove into hydrogen technology, especially in the hydrogen cells and the hydrogen combustion engines. But today we're bringing it all back together to take a look at which of these options is actually the best one. So sit back, relax, and we'll find out together. So, what are the advantages of using an EV? Well, the biggest one is that with EVs we have an energy efficiency of 70 to 90%. And this is something that we've never seen before in the auto technology. So this is an absolute benchmark for the industry. Then the second thing is that we have no local emissions, because these cars don't actually produce any CO2 or natrium oxides, which is actually ideal for city life because the air quality isn't affected by driving around in these cars. Then something that a lot of car dealers really hate is that these cars don't need a lot of service to them, because there are a lot less moving parts in these vehicles than in a normal combustion engine car. And then refueling these cars, or actually recharging them, is pretty cheap because you have the possibility to charge at home. And the infrastructure to support these kind of vehicles, well, then I'm especially talking about load stations, is rapidly expanding with a lot more fast chargers and public charging points around the cities. But as with everything, there are also some disadvantages about electric cars. And the first one is the most obvious one, and that's the charging time. Although it goes quicker with the minute, especially with those fast chargers, it still takes a while, because to charge a car you're mostly using around 15 minutes even at a fast charger, whilst at the gas station it takes 5 minutes or less to fill up your car and drive off again. Then a second one that is really a headache is the weight of these cars, because they have a big impact on the effectiveness and the sportivity of the car, because these kind of cars feel really heavy when driving around. And then the last big one on our list is that this is not ideal for doing long distances or heavy machinery like trucks or other types of vehicles. And there, hydrogen might be a lot more attractive to use.
So we're gonna quickly take a look at how the technology behind EVs works. So if we look at it, we have 4 different things that are necessary to work. The first one is obviously the electro engine. The second one is a battery pack. Then third, we need an inverter to have the current exchange. And then we also need something to make everything work together, and this is the software. So the strong suits in this technology are that we have a lot less heat exchange or heat loss. Then we also have a direct power to the motor and to the wheels. We don't have any delays. And there are also a lot of software applications that are possible. But there are also some weak points in this. The first one is the production for the batteries. This is really heavy on the supplies that are needed. Then we also need to make sure we regulate the temperature inside of the battery really well, because this has a lot of impact on how much we can get out of it. And there is also a charging network needed.
Now that we've taken a look at the strong suits and the weaknesses of EVs, let's do the same for hydrogen.
If you want to know
now let's look
how
at
wonderful
hydrogen.
a hydrogen-powered
Well, the
high-performance
strong
car
suits
can
for this
sound,
technology is
maybe you should
we
meet
can really quickly
the experimental
refuel
GR
because
Yaris
it's just the same as a
Here it
normal
is.
gasoline engine. Then there is a lot of power, and there is also the motorsport feeling, because we've got noise, vibrations and the experience, which is actually ideal for the people who love races and who are really into engines. Then we also have a high energy density per kilogram for the fuel, which is also really nice, because this means the car will weigh less. And we can use the old engine blueprints, because these hydrogen engines are built upon those old platforms. So now let's look at the disadvantages of hydrogen. First, we've got a low efficiency.
music to the ears,
Because
especially to those
this is the
of
same
a
as with a
petrol
normal car. We've got around 20 to 30% efficiency and a lot of heat loss, especially if we take a look and put EVs and hydrogen cars side by side. Then we might also have some nitrogen oxides as emissions, which is far from ideal. Then the infrastructure isn't there, which means it's hard to refuel these types of cars. And due to it not being readily available, the costs of refueling is also pretty high at the moment. So, like we saw, the technology behind hydrogen ICE engines is just the same as with a normal ICE engine, but with the little tweaks to accommodate for the hydrogen. And this includes a couple of changed injectors, turbo systems and a different cooling system, and also an extremely complex high pressure tank to house this hydrogen. So a bit of strong suits behind this is that producers do already know the technology and they are really good for using in sports. But some of the weaker points behind this type of engine is that you have the risk of backfires, and the material choice for these engines is rather complex. And the one that is always the same with ICE engines is that we have really low efficiency on these engines.
いいじゃん水素
So, now that we've taken a look at both of these technologies, let's put them head to head. So, if we're looking at efficiency, then the obvious winner is the EV technology, because we get around 60 to 90% of efficiency. If we're taking a look at the environmental impact, we can also see that it is EV technology, because EVs don't have any local emissions, whilst hydrogen can still have some natrium oxides coming out of them. If we look at the costs per kilometer, we can also see that this is a W for the EV technology. So if you're looking at the time it takes to charge or refuel the vehicle, then we see it's obvious that EV technology takes the win there. Because for EV technology, you are at least waiting 15 minutes to have 80% of charge. If we look at how complex the technology is, then we see that EV is taking the win again. But when looking at the driving pleasure of the vehicles and the possibility for motorsports, then we can see that it's clearly hydrogen that takes the win here. Because with the hydrogen, we can use the hydrogen combustion engines and still retain the sound of a combustion engine. Whilst with EVs this is not possible. And then our last point on the list is it possible to scale up the production of EVs or hydrogen cars? Like we've seen with EVs, this is really simple. And we can see this in the many Teslas or other electric vehicles driving around on the streets. But with EVs, with hydrogen cars, this is a bit more difficult. Because these are more for smaller, complicated markets which need a lot more specialization. So, if we're looking at the scoreboard, we can clearly see which one takes the win. Although this is not my personal favorite, we do have to give credit where credit is due. And this is, the clear winner is EVs here. This brings us to the end of this little sort of mini-series, where we've looked at the trouble with electrification at Bosch, the troubles at Stellantis with their platform sharing, and what they want to do with that. And we've taken also a look at hydrogen and both options we can go. Is it fuel cells or is it combustion engines? And if we put all of these side by side, we can see that electrification is technically still the most viable option to go. But hydrogen is still awaiting its comeback, especially in the more heavy machinery side of things. But if we take a look at it, we can clearly see that these battery technologies are really not useful in the heavy machinery, because the machines would be a lot heavier than they are right now, and they are already pretty heavy. So we'll have to wait and see. But my personal opinion is we would have to go with the hydrogen combustion engine, just because we still got the sound, which I do really love and I do miss with electric vehicles. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Would you prefer EV or a hydrogen ICE engine? So I hope you found all of these videos really interesting, and I hope to catch you in the next one. But don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to never miss a video.